Shalom, Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, Watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Malak Yabushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach Malak Yabushai. A hearty, mighty Shalom to all of the mighty men of the Lord who are out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their body as a living sacrifice, enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom to those men. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Akwath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, married or unmarried, being submissive unto Yahweh Bashmi Abishai, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. And last but not least, shalom to everybody tuning in there live. HBKN, Maka Allah Yasha Allah, Shalom Kings, Byron Robinson from Egypt to Israel, Mary West, Anthony Knox, Sherish Yah, Juan Figueroa, right? Shalom, Slakia, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Abishai. Lord willing, right? The topic of this cold cut is a continuation of the previous Sabbath cold cut, biblical history and early morning prophecy and the ancient world, right? This would be volume 2. So this is an ongoing series covering the life of the ancient world, Israel, and our role within a succession of these different kingdoms, what position we were in when it came to being under these different kingdoms, and what prominent forefathers and foremothers lived during this time, and what actually happened according to the ancient world, right? So these are the things that we must know and we must understand, because the Bible is our history book. We say that all the time. Ancient nation has their own history, right? Every ancient nation has their own records, but the Bible is our history, man. Let's go to Job chapter 8, right? So we want to dedicate time, and chiefly, I want to do it on a Shabbat, man, because going into the law, going into the history, going into the prophets, really the law and the prophets was what our forefathers did in the ancient times. Even Yahweh Shah himself stood up and read the book of Isaiah the prophet. So they went into the prophecy in the synagogues. They went into the law, right? And that's what we're going into. We're going to that spirit of the ancient world, right? This is Job chapter 8 and 8. I'm going to start at 7. Though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should greatly increase. And our beginning was small. Rather, you began small in its truth. Rather, you only knew one scripture. Rather, you didn't know about the Lord. Rather, you only knew one breakdown. Rather, you only knew the name of the Heavenly Father, but you didn't know his son. Rather, you came in this thing, you didn't have fringes on, but now you have a whole closet full of fringes. Even Israel, we were small. How many souls went into Egypt? 70 souls. 70 souls went into Egypt when Joseph brought his father and the rest of the Israel back. The Lord said, though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should greatly increase. And this is our latter end right now. We're as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And Israel is coming into this thing going to a massive level. There's a massive awakening going on amongst the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man returning back to the Lord. With that being said, it says, for inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. So you're expected, when you come into this thing at a certain time, to inquire of the former age. The word inquire means to investigate, to search. You understand? To really look into something, to examine it. And what age? The former age. The former age represents the time of the ancient days, the time of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, the time of Solomon, right? The time of Mordecai, Nehemiah, Ezra, the time of the Maccabees, the time of our Lord and our King, Yahweh Shai, Peter, Paul, right? James, John, Andrew, Thomas, right? That's the former age. They even call it BC. right? They call it BC. They divide ages up into these different time periods, man. Right? Even though we know the apostles is so-called AD, but nevertheless, Salakia, nevertheless, the Most High said that they would be of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. So you got to search out who your forefathers are. And it's not talking about Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington, or Malcolm X, man. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, going back, Shem, Noah, right? Lamech, Methuselah, Enoch, Jared, etc. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon the earth are a shadow. Shall not they teach thee and tell thee and utter words out of their hearts? And we inquire by looking into our fathers, by reading the scriptures. We read Moses, that's one of our fathers. Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, which we'll be heavy in today. These are our fathers, man. Now, we left off on the previous Sabbath in Daniel the 8th chapter, and I want to actually pick back up where we left off. If you didn't watch volume 1 of, what did I label this through the Spirit? Biblical History and Early Morning Prophecy and the Ancient World, right? So if you didn't tune in to part 1, I encourage you, brothers and sisters, to tune in, because we're going to pick up exactly where we left off. So I want to do a continuation, maybe do 4 volumes, right? So like last week we covered the Achaemenid Empire and the Persian or the Persian Empire. Now we're transitioning into the Greeks, and we covered somewhat of the Greeks, but then we're going to transition into the time between the Old Testament and the New Testament, called the intertestamental period, right? Which is the time period of the Maccabees and the Hasmonean dynasty and the early Roman Republic, or the late Roman Republic. Then I'm going to transition to the Roman Empire and go into the time of the apostles. So I want to cover that history from around 550 BC all the way into the time of our Lord, right? So this is Daniel chapter 8, and we read verses 1 through, I believe we read 1 through 7, right? So I'll read 8. This is Daniel chapter 1 and 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And this is speaking about Alexander's generals. Remember, this is a dark saying, and we brought that precept out in Ecclesiasticus, right? Let's go to, all right, let's see, Ecclesiasticus. First, let's do Wisdom of Solomon chapter 8. You will have dark sayings in the Bible. So you read about a notable horn and his horn being broken. It's not literal, right? It's completely metaphoric. This is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 8 and verse 8, right? If a man desire much experience, she, right, meaning wisdom, knoweth things of old, and conjectureth aright what is to come. So wisdom taps into you and shows you prophecy. It shows you what's going to come on the earth. It reveals to you about World War III, Jacob's trouble, Armageddon, what's going to happen when the Lord returns. If you have a grudge or you hate your brother, right? Or you have sold your soul, or you're just outright wicked, sinning against your maker willfully. So wisdom conjectureth aright what is to come. She knoweth the subtleties of speeches and can expound dark sentences. See that? So there are dark sentences in the Bible. There are verses that are completely dark, which means it's covered. The true message behind it, it's covered. It's cold. She foreseeth signs and wonders and the events of signs and times. Right? So we have to expound dark sentences, because wisdom, through the Spirit of the Most High, is showing you and foreseeing signs and wonders. Daniel 8 is a foreseeing of signs and wonders. It's a foreseeing of the so-called white man coming into power. The wonder of Esau rising up and slaying man. Right? Now, we've done breakdowns on how Esau got into Europe, and that would be a separate topic from what we're going into now. Right? I did want to cover that, but like I said, that would be a completely different breakdown. How Esau got into Europe, you know? But nevertheless, Daniel had wisdom of the Most High, and the Most High tapped into Daniel's mind to see these prophecies. Therefore, I propose to take her to me to live with me, knowing that she would be a counselor of good things and a comfort in cares and grief. You see that? So this right here, what does this mean? Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great. The he-goat is who? The Greeks. All right? They waxed very great. Look at Alexander's empire. Right? Look at his empire. A massive empire. Let's see if we can get this on a better map. See, they always want you to take the loophole. Right? Let me just slow this up. All right, like so. So here's Alexander's map. Remember, we discussed this with what this is on the top right. That's a map key or a map legend. This is Alexander's route, how he took over the known world. Here's his empire. Started out here in Macedonia, came and crossed this area right here, entered into Asia Minor, took down many heathen, other heathen, defeated Darius the Great at Arbela, right? Came down and went to Susa, went up to Ecbatana, right? So this is his journey, right? This is his journey and his empire that covered India, Europe, and Africa, and parts of Mesopotamia and Asia Minor. So that's what this means in Daniel 8. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great. And a lot of you so-called white people, man, right? If you're an Edomite who snuck in, a lot of you so-called white people, y'all say that the Greeks are the beginning of white civilization. If I can get that. Greeks, right? Beginning, let's see, of white. They actually claim this, man. We were taught this, or at least I was in the so-called white man schools. Look at this. The earliest European societies, including Greeks and Romans, right, had no concept of race. Well, that's true, right? They classified people by ethnicity and social class. That's right. There was no white people. The Romans didn't call themselves white people, right? The Greeks didn't call themselves white people, right? You were known by really your nationality, and you were known in antiquity by the land that you came from and or the language that you spoke and who your family was. There was no white and black people, right? Let's see. So now they kind of adding more history into it, but they'll normally tell you that the so-called white man's history begins with the Greeks, man. Right? That's what he puts out there. Now they may have changed it. They may have went online and did the fact checkers and kind of moved some information around. But that's a well-known fact that Esau likes to brag that the Greeks are the beginning of his civilization. So he waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Now, who's the great horn? The great horn is Alexander. Right? And his horn was broken. Why? Because Alexander died. How did he die? They say of sickness. Right? They'll say of sickness. Some say it was syphilis. There's a lot of talk about how this man died. And when this man actually died, his men, they fought over his body, right? To see who would have his tomb or his sepulcher in their kingdom. Alexander had top generals, and we're going to read about it. He had Perdiccas, he had Antigonus, he had Lysimachus, he had Cassander, he had Seleucus, he had Ptolemy, he had Hystiapes, right? He had a lot of top generals, man. and they all fought over his body. Right? The death of Alexander the Great, this is the great horn being broken, and subsequent related events have been subjects of debates. According to a Babylonian astronomical diary, Alexander died in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon between the evening of June 10th and the evening of June 11th, June 323 BC. Right? And that's a date. That's a day to turn up on, man. No, it's not commanded by the Most High. But hey, look, you might mark your calendar, man. Okay, June 10th, that's the day Alexander the Freak died. Because they want you to get into his damn July 4th and his summer festivities. Hey, June 10th is a day where you might, hey, look, man, this is the day that Alexander the Freak died. You might do the 10th and the 11th. Now, is it a feast day ordained by the Most High? No. Right? But hey, look, it's a date to remember. Macedonians and local, and no, we're not commanding, it's not a law. We're not saying that's a law, because Jake could get simple, man. We always got to clarify. Oh, and his brother said this is a new high holy. No, it's not a new high holy day. Right? It's optional. Something that if you want to do it. All right. Because Jake, you know, brother, Jake could get simple, man. They'll trim the video and edit it and splice it out. Right. But nevertheless, Macedonians and local residents wept at the news of the death, while Achaemenid subjects were forced to shave their heads. So when this Edomite died, you had Elamites and Ishmaelites that was forced to shave their head. The mother of Darius III, Sisygambis, having learned of Alexander's death, had depression and killed herself later. Now, didn't this man kill her son pretty much? Darius III was defeated by Alexander, but his mother wept about, this is madness, about Alexander's death. That's off, man. Right? That's off. That's like somebody kill you and then somebody killed a guy who killed you and your mother's crying over the guy who killed you, man. Right? That's madness. Historians vary in their assessments of primary sources about Alexander's death, which has resulted in different views about its cause and circumstance. All right. So when you go deep into it, they say he probably died of typhoid fever or malaria. Right. And we're led to believe it was HIV, AIDS, syphilis, gonorrhea, right? You know, something of that nature. I don't think he died of a fever, right? Remember, Alexander was a sodomite, man. Like all you so-called Edomites, man, or you so-called white people. He was a sodomite. They say Alexander would fight naked from the waist down. So as he was riding horseback to take down these nations, all of his men were naked from the waist down. You know? And he had men lovers, man. So he was a sodomite, but he was killing a lot of people, man. He was bugged out. You know, yeah, he had demons on him. But guess what? The Most High was using him. And a lot of those ancient kings knew that the Most High was using him. Cyrus, he recognized the Most High. There's a time when even Nebuchadnezzar recognized the Most High. During the reign of Alexander, when we brought this up before, Alexander the Great also saw the chariots of the Most High. Let's see, UFOs, Tyree. Right? So I want to go into this. Now check this out. Okay, well that doesn't work. See, now they're taking the stuff out with Alexander and the UFOs, man. See that? Missing UFOs. It must include, yes, it must include UFOs. Okay, check this out. Hopefully they didn't flag this one. Okay, Alexander the Great, the man who changed the world. Okay, check this out. In the book of Arian for Alexander's expedition, I know this may be small, right? But I'm going to read it anyway. And 323 BC or 332 BC, during the siege of Tyre, strange flying objects Look at this. Strange flying objects were observed and attacked the city walls of Tyre. You see that? Which led to the city's defeat. Right? The fact that this happened many years ago led scholars to the conclusion that Arian wanted to show that Alexander had on his part the gods. Nowadays, it's another proof for the fans of UFOs. But this actually happened. Huh? Why? Because Tyre of Zidon, when you look it up, let's go to the book of Ezekiel, right? Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 26. See, the Most High sent chariots to take this wall down because Tyre and Zidon were a very, very strong city, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 26 and verse 3. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Tyrus. Tyrus is the ancient Canaanites. All right, that's where the Canaanites are. Phoenicia, if you can understand, and will cause many nations to come up against thee, as the sea causeth his waves to come up, and they shall destroy the walls of Tyrus. See that? And break down her towers. I will also scrape her dust from her and make her like the top of the rock. So it was prophesied that Tyrus would be destroyed. Now, again, let's look up Tyrus. Tyrus was a top city of trade and economics. When it came to maritime trade, there was no other kingdom that dominated, monopolized, and had complete rulership over trade other than Tyrus, or you may know as Tyre and Zidon. So let's look up Tyrus on the map. We're pulling up a lot of information, right? Tyrus, all right, ancient map, right? You'll see that Tyrus was an island at one time, right? When you look it up, let's see if we can pull this up. Okay, let's see. See, I may have to, because now your modern maps, they show it being connected. You see, if you look at a map now, they show Tyre being connected to the mainland. Tyre wasn't always connected to the mainland. So we have to, here's a better map. See that? So Tyre was an island. This is an island city. This is the siege of Tyre from November to August. Right? From November to August. So I can bear with me. All right, see that? So the siege of Tyre was orchestrated by Alexander the Great in 332 BC during his campaigns against the Persians. The Macedonian army was unable to capture the city, which was a strategic coastal base on the Mediterranean Sea. So he tried to take the city down, but he couldn't. It is said that Alexander was so enraged at the Tyrrhenians' defense of their city and the loss of his men that he destroyed half the city. According to Arian, that was his historian or his scholar. He's the one that wrote down all of that information. Arian of Nicomedia. According to Arian, 8,000 Tyrrhenian civilians were massacred after the city fell. You see that? So this was the walls right here. Right? These are the walls that were constructed. You couldn't take down this city, man. Heavy walls around the entire island. So we had a hard time trying to get into this place. So what happened? The Most High, he actually built the land bridge. You see this mole right here? Mole constructed by Alexander. So a lot of these guys were these nations and these rulers like Alexander, Cyrus. The Most High gave them a lot of warlike military strategies and gave them a lot of warlike intelligence, man. Because this man actually built a land bridge to connect the land, the mainland to this island. Right? Imagine that, man. You built an actual land bridge to cross a river just to go kill these people. You know? And when he got there, A lot of the scholars say what? That there were strange objects that attacked the city walls because he couldn't do it, man. But guess what? There's prophecy that has to be fulfilled. There are prophecies that have to be fulfilled. Let's see. That might be the only. There used to be more articles that covered it, right? But now, with this great wake of UFOs and the chariots, it's hard to even find information on it. But they tell you that the UFOs actually helped attack that city, right? I know he didn't. See, the more that this place continues and the truth comes out, the more that the so-called white man is going to do to discredit it, to discredit the truth and discredit what the Most High set up. All right. So again, that's the point. Alexander had a massive army, and the Most High was dealing with him, not dealing with him in terms of righteousness and favor for salvation, but dealing with him because there are prophecies that have to be fulfilled. Remember, the Most High is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. So if the Most High prophesied about these different kingdoms, they're going to have to come into power. There is nothing that anybody can do to stop the so-called white man right now or in time past from taking over America. A lot of brothers say, well, how come the so-called Gadites didn't do this? How come we didn't fight back? How come we didn't over? Because guess what? The Most High put a spirit on man to be submissive to his will. See, this is not up to us, man. How come we didn't overthrow the so-called white men? We outnumbered them. Man, if I was there, I would have. Brother, you wouldn't have did nothing, brother, because you have to abide by this man, by Yahweh, by Shemiah Shah's, by his thing, man. This is his show. How come Alexander didn't take over more? How come he died at 32? How come he didn't live longer? Because the Most High wanted him to, and he's just a tool. The Most High wanted him to just do a job, man. Like a temp. You hire a temp or a hireling, they just do their job, man. You kind of let them go, That's how man is, man. Man is disposable to the Most High. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Hath he said, and shall he not do it? Or hath he spoken, and shall he not make it good? Right? Didn't the Most High say that there would be thighs and belly of brass, or be a leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings of a fowl? Didn't he prophesy of Alexander the Great or the Greeks? And is he goat with a notable horn between his eyes? Yes. So if the Most High prophesied of that, guess what? It's going to happen. So these strong walls aren't going to stop prophecy from being fulfilled. Alexander's going to do whatever the Most High want him to do. Right? Let's go to Proverbs. Let's get the classic. Chapter 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. And really, even the boundaries of these kingdoms have been set up by the Lord. The Most High never wanted a nation to conquer the whole earth. And that will never happen. There's not going to be one nation that just kills off all the other nations and conquers the earth for world domination. Now, Esau, he's in that spirit now, but he can't get rid of the Moabites. He's not going to get rid of the Ishmaelites. Even if he wanted to, he's not going to be able to get rid of Israel. Our days are innumerable. He can't get rid of the Hamites. All of these nations have to remain. And even America's expansion of imperialism is strictly in the bounds of the Most High. So all of these kings are under mind control. Who's doing the mind control? Yahweh, by Shemiah Shah. Right, let's go to Job chapter 14. Right, we got to stop giving credit unto man. Right, too much credit unto man, and no credit to the Most High. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. What are bounds? Boundaries, borders. So when you look up this empire, it can't go past what set it up to be. right? It's not going to go past this. That's why Alexander, he wanted to push into India and keep going, but the Most High shut it down. All right. So when you go back to Daniel, the 8th chapter, this is that it's like that great horn being broken. Alexander, he reigned, he ruled, and then he died. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. So when Alexander died, there were 4 notable men toward the 4 winds of heaven, meaning his kingdom was dispersed. All right. Now let's read about Daniel 8 and 8 in the book of 1 Maccabees. Right? Because any top king, he had top generals. He had top generals around him. And I named a few of Alexander's generals: Perdiccas, Antigonus, Lysimachus, Seleucus, Ptolemy. You know, he had a lot of men around him. All right, we're going to read that. This 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and 1. And it happened after that, Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead first over Greece, because he was the first actual king over Greece. Before that, they were city-states, right? They had city-states and their own Greek leagues. But Alexander was the first king over all of Greece. He unified those Greek city-states and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. So that's that rulership, right? And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die, right? That's that HIV, right? AIDS. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. This is Daniel 8 and 8, right? Let's read Daniel 8 and 8 again, right? The great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. Same thing we're reading right here. Alexander's kingdom was parted while he was yet alive. So Alexander divided his kingdom into his top 4 generals. His top 4 generals was Lysimachus, Cassander, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. On his deathbed, he said, you're going to get this part, Thrace and parts of Greece. You're going to get Syria and Mesopotamia. You're going to get northern Egypt, right? And parts of Africa, or the land of Ham. And you're going to get this region over here, right? So he divided his kingdom. Now, let's go to Daniel 7. Right, let's go to Daniel chapter 7. So you can read about the Greeks a lot throughout the Bible, man. Right? Outside of the Romans, really, there's the greater history is found within the Greeks, man. When it comes to these different heathen empires, the Greeks play a major role in their relationship toward Israel. And we'll show you how we tie all into this thing, man, because around the time of the Greeks, we may go into the Maccabees, right? We may not, right? Depending on the spirit. Now, this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 6, right? Remember, we read about the bear that raised up itself on one side. If you haven't watched volume 1 last Sabbath, check it out, right? We covered this bear with 3 ribs in his mouth. Now, here's part 2, right? Daniel 7 and 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So this beast, a leopard with 4 wings of a fowl and 4 heads, is what? Alexander's empire being divided. The 4 wings represent the regions of this man's kingdom being divided. The 4 heads are the 4 men. Right? Now, let's prove that. Let's show Alexander's empire divided. So here's a map. It looks to me as if it's in Latin, right? A lot of these words are Latin, but check this out. Here's your map key. Diadiki or Diadici. It says regnum. Now, when you study Latin, reg or rex, if I'm not mistaken, it goes back to the kingdom or region, right? Kingdom or region. So it says Cassandri, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucia, right? And Epirus. So here's his 4 kingdoms. When you look at this map again in the green, that's Alexander's kingdom divided and given unto Cassander. When you look at the orange, that's the area that Alexander gave to Lysimachus. When you look at this dark purple or blue, that's the region he gave to Ptolemy. And when you look at the gold or the yellow, that's the region he gave to Seleucus, and that's Epirus, right? So let's look at this map. So this green area is Cassander. Cassander was given Macedonia, right? So if you want to know what the 4 wings are, the first wing is Macedonia or Greece, right? That's the first wing. And the head that the head of this was Cassander, right? You see that? Cassander. The second area is Lysimachus. Lysimachus had Thrace and Ionia. This region right here is Ionia, right? This whole thing is Turkey or Asia Minor, but this region chiefly, if I'm not mistaken, let's pull up. Right, we always want to double check. That ancient Ionia was an ancient region on the western coast of Anatolia. Anatolia is Turkey, right? So let's put this up on the map. Ancient Ionia, right? Yep. So there you have it. The western part of Turkey, or what they called Anatolia. Let's pull this map back up. See that? So there's, again, a second wing is Thrace and Ionia, or you could say Western Turkey. That was ruled by none other than Lysimachus. Now, when you look at this yellow, this gold, this vast region, the greatest portion of Alexander's empire was given to who? Seleucius. And they actually fought over this, man. We're going to read about this. And when you look at this purple or this blue of Egypt and Libya, right, and other parts of Asia Minor, this was given to who? To Ptolemy, right? You had a small portion given to Epirus, right? And you also, believe it or not, there was a portion given unto Antigonus. But Antigonus got defeated because when Alexander died, remember you had these men, these Edomites, and this, let me clarify this. This color right here, this light blue, that's the Roman Republic, all right? But nevertheless, you had these Edomites that fought amongst each other, right? Over who would be the top guy. Let's pull up Antigonus. Let's see, empire. I'm just typing in some keywords, right? Just typing in some keywords. And I want to see the portion that was given to Antigonus. I spelled his name wrong. Okay, let's see. All right, they don't have a map key right here. All right, bear with me. Okay, what we have right here? Okay, see that? So I want to make a point. When you look at Alexander's maps, you want to look at the dates because it's like looking at the date of the expansion of America. If you want to look at the map of America in 1776, it's going to be different than the map of America in 1890. It's going to be different than 1997, right? So when you look at this map of Alexander's empire being divided, be mindful of the date, because what happened at 303 BC may not have happened during this time. All right. Now, I'm led to believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is after 303 BC, right? Because Alexander's one of his generals, Antigonus, got defeated. So let's look at this map and compare. Right? Again, this is your map legend or your map key. Seleucus has that same large empire. Okay, Seleucus, I didn't see if I can go back. But now that the main thing you're looking at different is this green. Antigonus. You have 5 men right here, right? Lysimachus, Cassander, Antigonus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. But the Bible says there will be 4 gods, which means one of these men got cut down. What man got cut down? Antigonus. He was an older man. I believe his name is Antigonus Monopathalus, right? And he got cut down. That's why this region of green right here, this was divided up and given to Seleucus, Ptolemy, and given to Lysimachus. And Antigonus got faded out, man. That's why on this map, you don't see an Antigonus. There's no Antigonus down here. There's no Regnum Antigonum, or Antigone, however they would say it, because he got absorbed. He got cut down. All right, let's pull up Antigonus. Right, Monophthalmus, right? That's his name. Monophthalmus, also known as means one-eyed. All right, so Antigonus got defeated, man. Antigonus the first, Monophthalmus, son of Philip, was a Macedonian Greek noble, general, and satrap. During the half of his life, he served under Philip II. After Philip's death, he served Alexander. He was a major figure in the Wars of the Diadochi. After Alexander's death in 323 BC, declaring himself king in 306 BC, and establishing the Antigonid dynasty. So you had the Wars of the Diadochi. These are the wars that Esau fought amongst each other. Right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 12. These are the wars that Esau fought amongst each other. Last time I checked, it says a nation or a house divided against itself shall not stand. Right? This St. Matthew chapter 12 and verse 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And that's what happens when you have 4 heads. Every head is going to think for itself. That's what the Lord said. We have one head. Who's our one head? Yahushua. Let's get that. Right? We don't have 4 heads, man. That's massive confusion. Right? Colossians chapter 1 and verse 18. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence. So Yahushua is the head of the body. When you have multiple heads, they all want the preeminence. Then they all want to be up top. They all want to be the top guys. You know, they all want to be the number one man, the go-to guy, the king. So you had these Edomites that all wanted to have the preeminence because the Most High said they would fight because they have 4 heads. You see that? And 4 wings of a fowl. So everybody wants to fly and go their own direction, have their own place, and do their own thing. Let's look up this when we go back. Right? So Antigonus, let's see, I want to jump down. See, they're going into Perdiccas. Perdiccas was another top guy that Alexander had. All right, so Alexander, Slaki, this man, I'm not going to read this whole thing, of course. But you had these wars between Alexander's generals. All right, and they all fought amongst each other. They all fought. Now let's go up. Let's go to the Diadochi again. These are Alexander's generals. These are the 4 heads and the 4 wings of a fowl being divided amongst each other. There's another key chapter in the Bible, Daniel 11th chapter. Now, Daniel 11, which we're not going to cover right now, we've done breakdowns on it, part 1, part 2, a few volumes of it. But Daniel 11 says the same thing, right? Daniel chapter 11 and verse 3. Here's the Greeks. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. That's Alexander the Freak. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity. Right? So it didn't come Alexander's seed. His rulership wasn't the same as or it wasn't as strong as when Alexander ruled. So how his generals ruled that actually weakened his empire. Nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. And then it proceeds to go into the king of the south. The king of the south shall be strong, and the king of the south shall be strong in one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And the king of the south is dealing with the Ptolemaic dynasty. All right, you read about the king of the north, that's the Seleucid dynasty. And again, we're not going to read this whole chapter, right? It's a very extensive breakdown. And we may cover that one day. We may just go through each part of Daniel, the 11th chapter, right? And just do a series on it and really uncover these prophecies and these secrets. But nevertheless, Daniel 11 is about the Diadochi Wars. It's about the wars between the Seleucid dynasty and the Ptolemaic dynasty, the king of the north and the king of the south. All right. So when you go back to this, Slacky, let's go back to, I want to pull this up. The Battle of Ypres. Right. So the Battle of Ypres was when Antigonus died. So we read about Antigonus at the Battle of Ypres is when he died. Lysimachus and his allies won. Antigonus was killed. That's all we need to know, right? That's all we need to know. The Battle of Ypres. The Battle of Ypres was fought between some of the Diadochi, the successors of Alexander the Great. That's what that word means, right? The Diadochi or Diki were rival generals, families, and friends of Alexander the Great who fought for control over his empire. After his death in 323 BC, the wars of the Diadochi marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period from the Mediterranean Valley to the Indus River Valley. So they were all Edomite generals fighting to be the top guy, be the top dog, how they say, man. Now, it became a little more clearer who would be in control at the Battle of Ypres, right? Again, it was fought between Alexander's generals near the town of Ypres and Phrygia. Antigonus I, Monophthalmus, the Macedonian ruler of large parts of Asia, and his son Demetrius were pitted against the coalition of three other successors of Alexander: Cassander, ruler of Macedon; Lysimachus, ruler of Thrace; and Seleucus I Nicator, ruler of Babylonia and Persia. Only one of these leaders, Lysimachus, had actually been one of Alexander's, these Greek words, Somatophylakes, right? So that was one of his top generals, Lysimachus. He was a top guy. So again, during this battle, what happened? Antigonus died, right? Antigonus died, and those top four generals, they came to become those guys, right? Those four heads. So when you read these prophecies, you have to match it up with history, right? You can't just say, okay, that's the Greeks. You have to go into it and understand what actually happened during those time periods, because the Most High, and the Bible would be this big, man. If the Most High gave you every detail and every name and every date and every place and everything, man. So the Most High keeps it simple, And it's really deep, but the Most High, he condenses it, and it's up to you to go into it and expound upon it and extrapolate by going into that history. Right? See, this map was 301 BC. See that? I see that right there. So I encourage brothers to go deep into that history and see what the Most High speaks of. So let's go back to Daniel chapter 8. Actually, I want to go back to First Maccabees. All right, so Salaki, we'll read about all of that maps we showed and all of the history. About to read about it right here, first and foremost in the scriptures. Right, this is First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse. Let's see where I left off. 5. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So he divided his kingdom, and then they started fighting amongst each other. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died from the age of 20 to the age of 32. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place. One man had Thrace and Ionia, one man had Macedonia, one man had Babylonia and Mesopotamia, and another man had Egypt and Libya. So they bear rule in their own place. Those are the four wings. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So when the so-called white man came into power, what happened? That's why he don't put this in the scriptures. Why he took this out the Bible. He took this out the Bible because guess what? If you were to know that when the so-called white man came into power, that evils were multiplied, and you look different at this devil, man. You look at all of the evil on the earth, and you'll say, well, hold on now. This happened because of the so-called white man. Don't you know when the Greeks came into power, you have pedestry on a massive level, idolatry on the highest level, just murder and wickedness? The Most High's telling you, evils were multiplied when the so-called white man took the crown. And really, this is the only time this is mentioned in the Bible. This isn't mentioned when the Babylonians came into power. Not saying that they were righteous, but it's not documented. So it wasn't documented for the Medes and the Persians. This is documented, and it's not even documented for the Assyrians. And we call hell from the Assyrians. Sennacherib and Tiglath-Pileser and all these heathens. But this is documented in the scriptures, the holy text, the most holy Bible, when Esau comes into power. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 29. Right? You may say, well, what did he do? What didn't he do, man? What didn't Esau do? Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. See that? So when you have righteous authority, the people rejoice, man. There's love, there's brotherhood, there's peace, right? There's no war, no robbery, no oppression, no innocent blood. But when you have wicked men in power, people are mourning, man. You know, people are damn hiding. They're doing God knows what, man. They're crying because you have wicked rulership. So what happened when Esau came into power? The people were mourning, man. Let's go to Proverbs 29 and 16. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. Right? So the more Edomites you have, the more sin you're going to have. That's why Isaiah chapter 14 and 21 says what? The Lord said the more Edomites you have, the more wickedness you're going to have. That's why you have prophecies like so. Isaiah 14 and 21. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. So the Lord want to greatly exterminate that population, because every time you have Edomite children, they're gonna grow up and be doubles, just like they earthly father and mother, man. They're all the same. The Lord said the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So you have to get rid of them, man. If you leave one Edomite left, he may overthrow everything. One Edomite. You may say, well, what harm could one Edomite do? Or keep one Edomite around you. Leave one of them left, man. He's going to overthrow somebody, manipulate, supplant, beguile, kill. Then he's going to gather a host unto himself. Right? These are the things that Esau does, man. Kills off all of the animals. They say that 90+% of the animals are extinct. That's what they say, right? Whether that's true or not, we don't know. How many animals are extinct? Let's do because of humans. Because of hunting. Let's do hunting. Okay, let's see. 10 animals hunted to extinction. Who's hunting these animals to extinction? How do you hunt an animal to the point where there's no more of them left? Only Esau does that, man. He's the one that takes pictures with lions and the lions are dead. Right? Or he goes and hunts. Look at this. A rhino chops off his horn, man. That's wicked. Now they have people that go out there to protect wildlife and make sure that there's no poaching going on and guys doing this. But hey, look, man, they've been doing this. He's a murderer. He just brings death. Look at this. Look at him. Running experiments on them, eating them, popping them, selling them, hunting them for fun. Look at this. This is off. When did the Most High take a sniper rifle, be 80 yards away, put a red dot on an elephant, man? The elephant looking down, he got a damn red dot on him. He don't know why. So Esau, you killed off the animals. You done destroyed all of the trees. You done polluted the soil with blood. The air is defiled. The air stinks. The water stinks, man. Everything's off. Let's go to Psalms chapter 82. Let's go to Psalms chapter 82, man. You got people drinking lead-infested water in Mississippi. Flint, Michigan don't have any clean water. It's been almost 10 years, man. Psalms chapter 82 and 5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. So everything's out of course, man. Nothing is right anymore. Everything that is right, they're turning it left. And everything that was left, they're turning it right. Everything's defiled. The food is defiled. They got fake eggs, fake rice. You got Moabites making fake cabbage, artificial suns. You got insect bugs being used in food, man. Let me pull that up. Let's see. Right, and all types of stuff, man. See that? Cochineal. Right? Today, carmine is primarily used as a colorant in food and lipstick, man. Carminic acid, typically 17 to 24% of dried insects' weight, can be extracted from the body in eggs and mixed with aluminum. It's a sorcery. And calcium salts to make carmine dye, which is used in your food, man. So, a lot of stuff you're eating It has insects in it, right? A lot of the makeup, that Eve may put on, it's it got all types of damn witchcraft and sorcery and demons on it. So this is a big deal, man. Right? This is a big deal. You've been eating insects your whole life, eating pork, toothpaste, and your pork in your toothpaste. And there's pork in water, man. They're putting pork in wine. Pull this up. Pork and wine. Okay, well, let's say gelatin and wine. See that? Look at this. Wine specifically responds to type A gelatin, which is derived from the boiling of pig skin. So you might have been drinking, and this is not, hey, look. Hey, the Lord said, that which is sold in the shambles, eat, asking no question for conscience sake. You can't, did y'all boil this with pig skin? And you'll die, man. If you question everything you ate, and you really knew what was going on, you wouldn't want to eat no more, you'll die. But we in this man's captivity, man. That's why we pray over it. We pray that Yahweh shall remove any impurities, any toxins from the food, any sorcery from the food, and that it may nourish our hearts, that we may magnify his name, man. This is wicked. So they carve out the pig skin and boil it. Why would you even think of that? Why can't the wine just be the wine? Why can't the pig just be the pig? Why are you always mixing stuff, man? Well, let me read this again. Wine specifically responds best to type A gelatin, which is derived from the boiling of pig skin. It takes only 1 ounce of gelatin to clarify. Wow, look at this. This is sick. Only 1 ounce of gelatin to clarify 1,000 gallons of wine. Wow. Wow, you see that? Wow. Right? Look at that ratio. For every 1,000 gallons of wine, there's 1 ounce of gelatin. Now, a wine bottle it's not even close to a gallon. Even your biggest wine bottle is about 3 liters. I believe it's about 3.7 liters to 1 gallon. Right? So, I mean, this is sick, man. This is a sick deal. That's why you got to get what they call kosher wine. Gelatin is used in both white and red wines to fix haze and color and to adjust the flavor. This is sick. So they put pork in the wine to adjust the flavor, because the way that Yahweh Bashmiyawashai made it, it's just not good enough for Esau. And it says wine cheereth God and man in the book of Judges, the 9th chapter. So the way that the grapes taste and the way that we made it is not enough. Right? Esau said, no, you Hebrews, man, y'all are making it. We can't get down with that. What can we do to enhance flavor? Let's add pork juice into it. A lot of foods that we eat, not to, digress from the topic at hand, it still is on topic because this is the byproduct of the wickedness of Esau. But a lot of foods that you eat in America are banned in other places. You can watch videos on that. You can look it up. There are a great list of things that are allowed to eat by the FDA in America that are banned in other countries, because these are the countries that why would we allow our people to eat that? But we eat anything here, man. And we're in this man's captivity. This is hell. Hell is not just work. Hell is, you might be defiling your body every day, eating bugs and pork. So it's used to adjust the flavor or bitterness of the wine. All right. So, this is a big deal, man. So let's get back to the topic at hand. The Lord said evils were multiplied in the earth. Another evil that we go into. Right? Pedestry or pederasty, right? Pederasty or pedestry is the intimate relationship between an adult man and a boy. The term pederasty is primarily used to refer to historical practices of certain cultures, particularly ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Who's that? The so-called white man. So-called white man said, no, multiple wives, it's off. You can only have one wife, and you could be with a little boy. Right? Those are the only options you get. You get one wife, all that having that Abraham and that Jacob spirit and that Solomon and having all of these wives. We're not allowing that. Right? We're not going for that. You can only deal with a little boy or one woman. Right? But this was Esau still. That's what the Bible says. Evils were multiplied in the earth. That's what you have to. I'm not going to look up the images because I guarantee something off is going to pop up, man. Right? Let me get out of that image right there. Pederasty is defined, again, that's the same thing. We covered this. The older man or the Erastes was usually in his mid to late 20s and was the pursuer in the relationship. Right? You see that? So you had, these guys, 23 to 29 or so, getting it in with old men, taking them away from their wives and seducing them. And a lot of them Edomites was doing things, man. Right? How old were the boys? 12 to 18. You see that? This is sick. That Sandusky spirit, man. Right? And that's what Esau was into. Evils were multiplied in the earth. Let's go back to this. Right? Let's get another precept. Let's go to Psalms chapter 12. All right, let's go to Psalms chapter 12 and verse 8. The wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. So when you have the top devil on the earth, you're going to have wickedness on every side. Right? When Alexander's in power or Antiochus or these different men, you're going to have wickedness on every side. It's inevitable. Right? It's bound to happen. When you have the Israelites in power, you have the complete opposite. You have righteousness. You have peace. Right? You have every man under his vine and fig tree. The sound of battle when the bow is broken in the land. You have peace with the beasts of the field. But when Esau's in power, you have the complete opposite. He enslaves the animals, puts them in the zoos, runs experiments on them, puts them implants in chimpanzees and locks them up and separates them and from their family and makes them run on a treadmill and do God knows what. He has rats and mice in a laboratory and put them in a maze and bump their head and die, and he damn throws them in a trash can and puts the next one in there. So this is a sick kingdom, man. If you really knew the wickedness of Babylon the Great, you'll leave, man. You'll buy a one-way ticket to God knows where, to anywhere but America, if you really knew every detail of wickedness, man. But the Most High don't give you all of that because we'll bug out. And we really saw the human trafficking, the organs being taken. I mean, all types of stuff, man. The pederasty going on with the elites, the sex trafficking, the murders, the lies, the slander, the people throwing up curses on Israel 24/7. Just throwing up curses on us, man, hoping that we fall. Let's go back to 1 Maccabees 1 and 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, meaning his generals. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So Antiochus Epiphanes IV, he came out of the line of the Seleucid dynasty. Let's pull up the Seleucid dynasty. Right, so here's the Seleucid dynasty. And I want to pull up a timeline. I should go to the family tree. Okay, here's a good one. The Seleucid kings, right? Your first one that Alexander set up was Seleucus the first Nicator. Then he had Antiochus. You may have hear men say Antiochus, right? Either way is fine, right? He's an Edomite. Antiochus the first Soter. Then you have Antiochus the second Theos. Antiochus, Slaki. I want to get a family tree because they're not showing you to connect in the bloodline. Where I want to see the bloodline, right? The Seleucid family tree. Okay, here you have it. Okay, the house of Seleucus. Seleucus the second, and then the bloodline focuses on Antiochus the third the Great. So Antiochus the third the Great had a son named Antiochus the fourth, Epiphanes. Now, when you read First Maccabees, he is the devil all throughout Maccabees, along with a lot of other devils, but he's the chief devil. Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, meaning God is manifest. All right. Now, like I said before, if we put a list together of the top Edomites to ever walk the earth, I guarantee and I have no doubt in my mind that Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth would be number one, right? Or number two. He'll be top three. He will definitely be top three because you have men up there like we always bring out Herod, the other Herod, the other Herod, the other Herod, right? Herod the Great, Agrippa, Antipater, right? Antipas. You have Pontius Pilate who scourged our Lord. You have Esau himself, right? You have Haman, right? The Agagite. You have Doeg, the Edomite, right? You have Nicanor. You have a lot of Edomites that we would like to be under our possession. Antiochus is no different, right? Let's go to the book of Daniel. Let's read about that. Read about this more in Daniel, the 8th chapter, about Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, right? Daniel chapter 8 and verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. So out of the Greeks came forth the little horn, right? The little horn is Antiochus Epiphanes, right? And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. So meaning he magnified himself to be like God. That's what this means. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, right? He exalted himself and made himself a God. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. So we're the exalted people. Remember, the Most High Salakia likens Israel unto the stars or unto the host of heaven, right? That's what we're likened unto. Why? Because we're a light and dark place and we're exalted. So he took the stars and cast us to the ground. Then he oppressed mightily, enslaved and destroyed Israel. Let's prove that we're likened unto stars, right? Let's go to Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12 and verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Right? So the Lord said, we turn people to righteousness, we shine, we are in the dark, and we're exalted. We have the same characteristics of a star. Right? Let's go to another precept. Let's go to Genesis chapter 37. Dealing with us being these stars. Genesis chapter 37 and verse 9. It reads, and he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Right? Now Joseph was the 12th star, because there are 12 stars. But you had 11 of them, which was his other brothers, right? Reuben all the way down to Benjamin. So the Israelites are known as these stars, right? That's what Daniel 8 is saying. And he exalted himself and cast us down from heaven. Because the firmament is heaven. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 and verse, I want to get straight to the point, 8. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So the stars are in heaven, and we were cast down from heaven to the earth. It's all poetic. It's not literal. It's not the Most High sent Antiochus in a spaceship to go up there and I'm gonna take that star, take that star, I'm gonna take that star, and he put them in a jar, and he put tape on it and wrote in the Greek, stars of heaven. And then he took them out the jar. They was kind of hot, so he threw them on the ground and he stamped them down. That's not what it's talking about. Then he had stardust on the bottom of his shoe, and he scraped the dust off, and he just kept it pushing to destruction. No, man. Right? When you jump down to, actually, let's get another precept. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 43. All right. So we are the stars of heaven being stamped down to the ground. Then I want to go to Lamentations. Ecclesiasticus chapter 43 and verse 9. The beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord. Who in the last days are giving light in the highest places and the chief places? The stars. Brothers that go out there, and not a star as in a celebrity. Right? That's not what it's talking about. They call these celebrity stars because they're exalted. They call Jamie Foxx, Denzel Washington, Samuel Jackson. They call them stars. And they even get a walk of fame in Hollywood. And you get your own name with a star on it. Because these guys are exalted. People follow them. They worship them. They glorify them. They stalk them. They follow everything they do. They write tabloids about these guys. They get pictures with them. They want their autograph. These guys are stars. That's where they're also called celebrities. When you look up the etymology, that's why you got to know what these words mean. When you look up the word celebrity, it goes back to that same spirit, man. Okay, celebrity, solemn rite or ceremony, celebrite, celebration, from the Latin celebritatum, multitude, fame, Salakia, from celeber, frequented or populous. Let's see, a famous person. Let me go to the word celebrate. Okay, you see that? Here's what we want. Okay, Latin celebratus, much frequented, famous, assemble to honor, to publish, sing praises of. You would think that these are gods, man. Practice often, to frequent in great numbers. Frequented, populous, crowded. That's what these guys have. I mean, paparazzi that follow them. They have stadiums filled with people that want to hear their music, man. Theaters, sold out shows. General sense of commemorate or honor with the demonstrations of joy, meaning to make widely known, praise, and glorify. See that? To make widely known, praise, and glorify. Because they treat these people like they're gods, man. That's a celeb. Oh, he's a star. Well, according to the Most High, we're the true stars. We're the true people that are in our highest places, man. Brothers that are in this truth. And sisters, at the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches. And we're commanded to watch and never faint, just like stars. Right? So when he actually did this, when it says, and it waxed great, meaning Antiochus, even to the host of heaven, meaning he exalted himself, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Speaking about he took us out of our power seat. Because prior to him coming on the scene, we were allowed to practice our own rights and keep our commandments and serve the Most High and do the sacrifices. All these things were permissible during the reign of even Alexander the Great and Antiochus III. But when his son came into power, all this was shut down. All right, let's get one more precept on that. The Lamentations chapter 2. Lamentations chapter 2 and 1. How hath the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with the cloud and his anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel, and remembered not his footstool and the day of his anger. So same thing, the Lord casts down from heaven. Who did that the first time? Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians. The first time that the stars were trampled and stamped was done by the Babylonians. It was also done by the Assyrians. It was also done by the Persians and the Medes, and now it's being done by the Greeks that we're reading about. All right, and the Romans did it too. It says the dragon. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 4. And his tail, meaning the Romans, drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Right? You see that? So you can't get around the fact that you had these parables and these prophecies where we're likened unto stars being cast down. Right? And that's what this is talking about. Stamped upon them, meaning we were trodden underfoot of men. Like the Lord said in the book of Luke, chapter 21 and 24 and down, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So let's read about us being stamped and cast down from heaven. Right? Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 11th chapter. Right? Let's go. Slakia, let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 11. And this whole thing is good, man. Right? Daniel chapter 11 and verse. Let's see. I want to start with verse 31. I'll start at 30. Daniel 11 or 30. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Now, what this is talking about is it's talking about the Romans, the Roman Republic, who actually came against Antiochus Epiphanes IV and told him that you're not going to travel any further into Egypt or go to war. They told him straight up and down, hey, look, me and Egypt, we have a league. If you come against Egypt, you come against us. So they sent this Roman council, and we've covered this before, Pompus Linnaeus, to be able to tell Antiochus, don't travel any further. And when you go into history, he actually drew a circle in the sand around him and said, look, if you come out this circle, you want war, but if you want to stay in this circle, you have peace. And he kind of stayed in that circle. Right? That was done by Pompus Linnaeus. Right? So I'm not going to go too deep into that. So let's read on. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. It's like I want to read this latter part again. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So you had sellouts, right, who gave him intelligence on where the temple was, where we kept the treasury at, what our Ark of the Covenant and all of our holy vessels were about, right? They gave him intel, like a spy, like COINTELPRO, like Judas and the Black Messiah. You had guys that sold their people out to please the so-called white man. Let's get that in First Maccabees. And there's nothing really worse than a coon, man. A sellout, a traitor of his own people. There's nothing really worse than a traitor of your own kinsmen. Right? This Second Maccabees, chapter 4 and verse 1. This Simon, now of whom we spake afore, having been a betrayer of the money and of his country, slandered Onias. And Onias was the priest, as if he had terrified Heliodorus and been the worker of these evils. So when Heliodorus, and again, I'm covering a lot because I can only cover so much, right? Because you will have to read the entire book of First and Second Maccabees, right, to really get into that history. So yeah, I'm in Maccabees and I'm bringing out a lot of points, but I can't bring out the entire book. So that's why we encourage brothers to read, apply the scriptures, dive into the history when you have that time. Make sure you're obedient to the law. You have the faith. So when things are being brought up, you're on point with what we're talking about. This, it's not nothing new to you. Now, I can understand if you just came into this thing and, you're still finding yourself, but you brothers has been in this thing, a year, 2 years or so, 3 years, you should be knowing about Maccabees, man, and know what we're talking about. So they slandered Onias, right? Thus was he bold to call him a traitor that had deserved well of the city and tended his own nation and was so zealous of the laws. So you had traitors calling other Israelites traitors, man. You had traitors in the ancient world who betrayed their own people, and they slandered Onias as if he was one, man. Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 11. You had men who forsook their own people to please the so-called white man, and they do that now, right? First Maccabees chapter 11 to 21. Then certain ungodly persons who hated their own people went into the king and told him that Jonathan besieged the tower. You had snitches, sellouts, coons, people who hate their own people. Go to the so-called white man and tell them that they're trying to save us from you. All right, let's go to First Maccabees 7 and 5. Right, First Maccabees chapter 7 and verse 5. Therefore came unto him all the wicked and ungodly men of Israel, having alchemists, who was desirous to be high priest for their captain. And they accused the people to the king, saying, Judas and his brethren have slain all thy friends and driven us out of our own land. So they told to the so-called white man. They went before the king and said, Judas and the Maccabees are killing all of the Edomites, man. Can you stop him from killing white people? Jake went to Esau and is begging Esau to stop killing other Edomites. That's what this is talking about in Daniel chapter 11. You had men who gave him intel. You had Israelites that forsook the law and decided to be like Esau. And Daniel 11 and 31. And arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. So they put pork and swine's flesh on the altar, took away the sacrifices that we were doing, and they began to profane the temple. When you go to the New Testament, you often read about Jew or Greek, right? Why do you always read about Jews and Greeks, right? What's the deal, man? Right? What's the deal with the Jews and the Greeks? Romans chapter 10 and 12, for there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. For the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. So here you have in the New Testament reading about the Greeks. Now, are the Greeks ruling the earth at this time? No. Any scholar would tell you that the Romans are ruling during this time. So how come it doesn't say the Jew and the Roman? Why does it say Jew and Greek? Right? Let's go to Galatians. Why does it keep saying that, man? Grecian and Greek and all of these different terms. Galatians chapter 3 and 20. I get straight to the point, 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahushua. You see that? Same thing. Let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 21. Right? Acts chapter 21 and verse 37. And as Paul was led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? So why is Greek the prominent language? Why is Greek the main deal? In the time of the Roman Empire, why is the word Greek used really more than the word Roman? For the most part, man. Because we're showing you that history and Maccabees and how Greeks became a term that wasn't just used for Edomites, it was used for anybody that was under that Greek lifestyle, under that Greek umbrella. Just like American. Greek is not a biblical nationality. Okay, you don't have the Edomites and then you got the Greeks. Okay, then you got the Moabites and the Greeks. No, the Greeks is a man-made word used in its proper sense to describe chiefly Edomites who came out of Macedonia and out of that region called Greece. But when they spread throughout the world, people that were under the subjection, they were also known as Greeks. Now, Greeks was a term used on Israelites that lived like Greeks. All right, let's go to the book of Acts. And they preferred the Greek lifestyle over the Israelite lifestyle. Acts 16 and 1. I'm going to go back to Maccabees, but we got to cover this. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, meaning an Israelite woman, right? And believed, but his father was a Greek. So his father was a Greek. It doesn't mean his father was an Edomite. His father lived the life of the so-called white man, right? That word is Helen. Helen, right? A Greek either by nationality, and there's no such nationality as Greek, right? Geopolitically, there's a people who go by Greeks because they live in a region of Greece or the land of Greece, but there's no nationality called Greeks, right? Now, the main Greeks are Edomites, but you had Israelites who had that title put on them because they followed and they were Hellenized, and their fathers were Hellenized to be like those Edomites, right? Rather a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. In a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. The primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship. So if you made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks your own, you were called a Greek, right? You were called a Greek, just straight up and down, man. So guess what? If you didn't make that language and custom and learning your own, you were called a barbarian. All right, let's get this in Colossians. Right, this is Colossians chapter 3 and verse 11. Where there is neither Jew, it's like you Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Hamashiach is all and in all. So if you weren't being a Greek, you were labeled other things, chiefly a barbarian. Now a barbarian is a word used to describe a savage and uncivilized, unmoralized person, a brute beast. But the so-called white man would call anybody a barbarian. See that? Used by the Greeks of any foreigner ignorant of the Greek language, whether mental or moral, with the added notion after the Persian War of rudeness and brutality. The word is used in the New Testament without the idea of reproachfulness, but it is reproachfulness associated with that, man. So they said, if you're not a sodomite, if you don't speak Greek, if you don't want to work out in the gyms, if you don't want to give sacrifice unto Zeus or Apollos or Hermes or whatever the case may be, then you're uncivilized. You know who does that now? Western European countries in America. If you don't get down with their system, they'll call you a third world country. Because your economy is not up to their standards, your lifestyle's not up to their standards, your people mentality, your schools are not up to their standards. They will call you a third world country. Might call you a brute beast, man. A savage. So these are the same exact things that they did during the time of so-called Alexander. Salakia. During the time of the Greeks, man. These things happen. So you had these two classes of people. You had Greeks and you had barbarians. Now, how they looked at the Maccabees, they looked at them as barbarians. Savage, rude, brutal, because they're destroying gymnasiums, circumcising their children, killing the wicked, burning down false temples, and destroying the idols of the land. How do they look at the Hebrew Israelites and his ministry? We're brutal. We're rude. Right? We're full of hate. You know? Violent. So we're the modern day outcasts. We're the modern day barbarians. We yell at people, you know, and all types of madness, man. Right? So there is no coincidence that the influence of Greek culture and life, language, morals, writings, there's no coincidence, man. That lifestyle is seen so heavily in the time of the New Testament. And that word Greek, why? Because you had an entire time period where the so-called white man, the actual Greeks, took over the world. Remember, that word Greek that we went into was Helen. Right? Let's pull that back up. That word was indeed Helen. Let's pull that back up. All right, I want to go back to this word. Right? Salakia. Now, there's a word called Salakia, Hellenization. Let's pull up that word. All right, Hellenization. Okay, Hellenization or Hellenism refers to the spread of Greek culture that had begun after the conquest of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC. One must think of the development of the Eastern Mediterranean really into two major phases, right? So when it said Timothy's father was a Greek, he was under the influence of Greek culture. Timothy's father more than likely ate pork. It don't say, but if you're under the Greek culture, you wasn't bound by a dietary law. And there were things done in Greece that the apostles had to warn the Israelite proselytes and the foreigners that were coming into this truth. What they had to warn them of, right? There were fornication, eating food with blood in it, things strangled, idolatry. Let's read that real quick. It's the book of Acts, chapter 15 and 19. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to God, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood. So if you were a Greek, more than likely these were things that you were into. Going into the temple of Zeus, Diana of Ephesus, going into the temple of Artemis, You know, let me pull some of these up. Greek. Let's see. Greek temples in New Testament times. All right, let's see if we can actually pull that up. Okay, I don't want to read this whole thing. All right, I'm not going to read this whole thing. Let's see. Okay, Corinth had the temple of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Who do you think was going on in that temple? And Corinth. That's why the church of Corinth had a lot of spirits on them, man. All right, they had a lot of spirits on them. Let's see if I can pull that up. Okay, in classical times and earlier, Corinth had a temple of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, employing some 1,000 heterots, temple prostitutes. The city was renowned for these temple prostitutes who served the wealthy merchants and the powerful officials who frequented the city. Right? So, I mean, you had a lot of madness going on in Corinth. Laius, I guess she's the most famous whore of all time. The most famous Hetaira, right? So why did he pray? How is she the most famous? Esau doesn't glorify anything. The most famous Hetaira was said to charge tremendous fees for her extraordinary favor. So she was just a whore, man. $10,000 in today's time, 30 bands. And I'll do X, Y, and Z, man. Referring to the city's exorbitant luxuries, listen to this. Horace is quoted as saying, non licet omnibus, adire Corinthium, meaning what? Not everyone is able to go to Corinth. Well, what the hell does that mean, man? Not everyone is able to go to Corinth. Because it was so much freakism and so much legions of demons and lust that the Greeks were into. They even said, even the Edomites said, hey, look, this ain't for everybody. This is only for the most vile men. If you want to freak off, go to Corinth. Corinth may have been like Vegas, man. Sin City. There was a lot of wicked places, man. So that's what the apostle said. Abstain from these things. Things are the things that the Greeks introduced in the earth. The pollutions of idols, heavy fornication, catamites. They had catamites, man. Let's pull up catamites. Like I said, when we do lessons like this, make sure I spell it right. Right? We're going into words, definitions, maps, timelines. A catamite in ancient Greece and Rome, a catamite was a pubescent boy who was the intimate companion of an older male. You see that? Usually in pederastic relationships. It was generally a term of affection and literally means Ganymede in Latin. Right? But it was an insult directed towards a grown man. See that? Look at this. I'm not even going to read that definition. So that catamites, temple prostitutes, right? They had all types of stuff, man, going on. Okay, G3120. I believe when you go effeminate, soft of a catamite, and I believe this is the word. I want to see if I can go to the blue letter and do G3120. Right? I haven't typed it like that before. I don't know if you can do that. Let's see. 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. All right, so bear with me. I want to see if I can get that word, if that's what that word is. Yep, that's that word right there. So when the Lord said in 1 Corinthians 6:9, let me pull this up. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. Now, that word effeminate in the Greek is what? Soft in a bad sense, effeminate, of a catamite, of a boy kept for wicked relationships with a man, a male who submits his body to unnatural lewdness, of a male prostitute. And you know, the Lord said after this verse in 1 Corinthians 6, the Greeks was into some bugged out stuff, man. They had catamites. Verse 10 says, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God. As such were some of you. But ye are washed, but ye are sanctified, but ye are justified in the name of the Lord Yahushua and by the Spirit of our God. You see that? So it says, and such were some of you. So the church of Corinth, some of these guys was effeminate, man. Some of them were adulterers. So they could, hey, look, this is what the Greeks condoned. These are the things that Antiochus introduced during the time of or the Greeks and Alexander put out there, man. So you have that influence of Greek culture. That's what Hellenism is, right? The spread of Greek culture, just like the so-called white man. He spreads his ways of America throughout the four corners of the earth. Right? Let's go to the book of Habakkuk. Right? He makes all nations drink of his wine. Habakkuk chapter 2 and 15. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look at on their nakedness. So Esau want everybody to be into pedestry, and he's pushing that now. You know, they have associations for pedestry, right? Nambla. This is a real deal, made in the 1980s, okay, 1970s. The North American Man-Boy Love Association is a pedophilia and pedestry or pederasty advocacy organization in the United States. And they let this thing be established, man. This is a big deal. The North American Man-Boy Love Association. Here's their leader. Show yourself. Let's pull up David Thorstad. He's the leader and the founder of the North American, look at it, Man-Boy Love Association. All right, look at this guy. So this is a wicked, corrupt system. They let this man found an entire association. He's one of those ancient Greeks back on the earth, man. Right? He's one of those top ancient Greeks back on the earth. Look at him. So this is a filthy, wicked kingdom, man. David Thorstad, the leader of the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Let's go back to this. Back to chapter 2. Thou art filled, 2 and 15. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink. That's what Alexander the Great did. He gave all of the nations his wine. Fornication, things with blood in it, pedestry, wickedness, murder, sacrilege. That puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. So what do you think happened to Israel? In process of time, a lot of our forefathers were forced to accept that Greek culture. And if you didn't accept that Greek culture, you were put to death. So through fear of the so-called white man, a lot of our sons, we didn't call them Israelites. We called them Greeks. And he called his son a Greek, and he called his son a Greek. So it got to the point you had all of these Israelites that were really Greeks, or all of these Greeks rather that were really Israelites by blood, but these men accepted the Greek culture, right? So let's actually prove that in Second Maccabees, right? Chapter 6 and verse 6, right? Second Maccabees, the 6th chapter and the 6th verse. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feast, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. And if you called yourself a Jew, you were put to death. If you broke the Sabbath, you were put to death. So what do you think a lot of men did to survive? They started breaking the Most High's laws. They said, well, look, I ain't going to circumcise my son. I ain't going to keep the Sabbath day. And these days are going to be back on earth, man. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled, meaning forced, to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy, right? Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of Judah. It's like neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews that they should observe the same fashions. See that? And be partakers of their sacrifices. So we were forced to observe the same fashions, how to dress, what to eat, how to deal with our families, what temples to go to, right? Putting pork on the altar. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man had seen the present misery. So if you didn't call yourself a Greek or a Gentile, guess what? You were put to death. So again, a lot like Timothy's father. His father's probably sold out, man. So Timothy's father was raised up as a Greek. But however the Most High set up, he married a woman in the truth. Or she came into the truth. And her mother was in the truth when you read 1 Timothy, the 1st chapter. Right? You see that? So there was a reason why you see that word Greek, because a lot of that influence of the so-called white man weighed mightily upon us. Right? So let's go back. And there's another word I want to get, Grecian. Now you see that word as well in the Bible, even in the book of Acts. Let's go to Acts chapter 6. All right, this is Acts chapter 6 and verse 1. And in those days, when the number of the Gentiles was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected and the daily ministration. Right? Now, these Grecians are Israelite women. Why are they called Grecians? Because the Greek tongue was their dominant language. So there was prejudice or discrimination going on. When these people were serving these widows, they were pushing the woman that spoke Greek in the back. And the woman that spoke Hebrew, they brought them up front. And then when the Israelite woman that spoke Greek came up, we don't have enough food for you. We don't have enough water. They might have gave them a biscuit and a half a bottle of water. Or said, we're closed. It is what it is. So there was a big deal going on, man. Those are these Grecians. They were being neglected when they were ministering to the wants of the Gentiles. So this word is Hellenistes or Hellenistas. See that? A Hellenist, one who imitates the manners and customs or the worship of the Greeks and use of the Greek tongue. Look at this. Used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. You can't get around that. I forgot that definition was in there. Jews born in foreign lands who speak Greek. That's a Grecian. So we were called, the Greek influence trickled down heavy on Israel, man. Just like a lot of other nations. A lot of other nations, they have their own account of how they were influenced by the Greek lifestyle. Just like us, man. That's why brothers got to read that first Maccabees. Read Second Maccabees on how we willingly conformed. Not all. That's why you have men like Judas, Simon, Mattathias, Eleazar, John Hyrcanus, a lot of men who didn't conform to the beast. You know, and those men are still around on the earth right now, man. Right? So let's actually go back to Daniel, the 8th chapter. All right. So Daniel chapter 8 and verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself, even to the prince of the host. So he puffed himself up, even against Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua. And by him, the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. Let's read that in First Maccabees. Right? The daily sacrifice was cast down. First Maccabees chapter 1. And I want verse 50. I want to get straight to the point. Right? So like First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 54. Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, and the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and built idol altars throughout the cities of Judah or at every side. So they put swine's flesh on the Most High's altar, slew a pig, sprinkled its blood 6 times right upon the altar, cut up the pig on the altar of the Most High, burned it, lit it on fire, and they wanted the Most High to smell it, man. They know that the Most High delights in the savor, the sweet-smelling savor of a sacrifice. They know that. When a lamb and a bullock, a he-goat and things are burnt, it's a sweet-smelling savor to the Most High. So when they put that swine's flesh on it, they wanted the Most High to smell that abomination, man. Pretty much a forget the Most High type of move, man. Right? But there's another word that starts with F, man. So they said forget the Most High. When they put that swine's flesh on the altar, he gonna smell his pork, and I'm gonna be wicked, and I'm gonna do what I want to do, and he can't stop me. That's why Esau has to be exterminated, man. Like Nicanor said, when they told him there's a mighty one in heaven, he said, I also am mighty upon the earth. Right? So let's go back to Daniel 8. So the sanctuary was cast down, and you had men like Mattathias, Judas, Simon, Jonathan that rose up into power to actually vex and destroy the heathen and restore the borders and the boundaries of Israel. And then host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking. That's an angel. And in this context, sometimes you have to, saints are referred to as the children of God, and sometimes they are referred to as angels. Like in the book of Jude, it says, behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints. It's talking about the angels he's coming back with. Or it's not talking about Israelites are going to be in the chariots coming back, destroying people, man. Right? It says, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So how long is it going to be for this to take place? And he said unto me, well, how long is it going to be from the time it's defiled to the time it's cleansed? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And that's from the time that they defiled it. Really around, you take 2,300 and you divide it by 360, and you get around 6 or so odd years or so. So from the time that they defiled it, believe in 171 BC to around 165, 164 BC. All right, roughly around that time. Let's actually go into that. Right? Temple defiled Antiochus. I want to actually get a timeline. Get a biblical timeline up here. Okay, let's see. From around 171. Let's see. Hold on. I want to get another one. Salakia. So we want to get into these timelines. let's see. Right, so it's anywhere circa around 170, 171 till around like 165, 165, 6 BC. Right, that's the time of the temple and the time of the Maccabees. All right, so let's go back to this. And it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood. And when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Right? So Daniel had it broken. When you read the rest of this chapter, it was expounded into him and broken down what would happen concerning the Greeks, concerning the Medes and the Persians, and what would happen to Israel in prophecy when the Greeks came into power. Right? So with that, I'm going to close up, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach Malak Yahushai. There's been another biblical history, early morning prophecy in the ancient world, volume 2. Lord, will the next Shabbat we pick back up and go into the Hasmonean dynasty in the time of the Roman Republic and cover that history, honing in more on the Hasmonean dynasty and the Maccabees and their relationship with the late Seleucid Empire and that late Roman Republic. So with that, Yahweh Bashmiel Shai Barakatah, keep the Sabbath holy. Tune into the Sabbath service that should be around 12:45, right? 1 o'clock, anywhere around that time on the main channel. No buying, no selling, no sex on the Sabbath, speaking your own words, no doing your own pleasures. Keep the Sabbath holy, stay in the spirit, read, pray. So a holy convocation come together, exercise brotherly love and compassion. Kwam Yashalom. Shalom.